President Zelenskyy of Ukraine is issuing a warning to Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. If you try to get around the sanctions that were being imposed before Donald Trump took office, Ukraine is going to impose its own sanctions on Russia in the form of Ukrainian drones destroying Russia's ships, Russia's military, Russia's oil pipelines. Ukraine will not hold back. And Donald, as you get more desperate and now you try to cut off more weapons being sold to Europe, which in turn would be sold to Ukraine, as you continue to remove the sanctions against Russian oil and allow Russia to try to make as much money as possible to go after Ukraine. Zelenskyy saying, we are not afraid of you anymore, Donald. We're not going to try to suck up to you. No more trips to the White House where we try to play nice. We are done with that. And we are treading our own course right here, uniting Europe, and Ukraine will now be a major global power. That's the message coming out of Ukraine right now to both Donald Trump and Putin. Just take a look at what President Zelenskyy has been saying just over the past 24 hours. He writes the following and shows a video of Ukrainian drones striking Russia's fleet, Russia's pipelines, Russia's military. President Zelenskyy writes, our warriors continue to apply sanctions against Russia's shadow oil fleet. 2 such vessels were struck in the waters at the entrance of the port of Novorossiysk. These tankers had been actively used to transport oil. Not anymore. I am grateful to the Chief of the General Staff, Andrei Hunatov, for leading the operation, to the counterintelligence officers for the Security Service of Ukraine, and to our Navy for consistently delivering effective results. Ukraine's long-range capabilities will continue to be developed comprehensively at sea, in the air, and on the land. Glory to Ukraine. Also, in the past 12 to 24 hours, Zelenskyy posted the following. Another Russian caliber carrier down. Major General Kamara reported on the successful strike against targets in the port of Primorsk. So you had the port of Novorossiysk, the port of Primorsk. It was a joint operation by our security services of Ukraine, the unmanned system forces, the special operation forces, the defense intelligence, and the border guards. Thank you all, warriors, for your coordinated work. The Karakort-class missile ship was hit, along with a patrol boat and another tanker from the Shadow Oil fleet. Significant damage was also inflicted on the infrastructure of the oil terminal port. Each such result further limits Russia's war potential. I have also approved additional entirely justified responses by the Security Service of Ukraine to Russian strikes on our cities and villages. Russia can end its war at any moment. Prolonging the war will only expand the scale of our defensive operations. Thank you, everybody, for fighting for Ukraine. Then they go on to talk about, based on the results from April, our long-range sanctions have reached a new level across 3 components, reducing Russia's oil revenue as well as the range and intensity of sanctions. It is important that not only is the target itself reached as defined by the operational objective, but that the downtime of the target is increased, or at the very least, its operations are significantly reduced. And so post after post. Now, Zelenskyy also in Armenia right now, where there is a meeting of the European political community. It's the European Political Community Summit. And in this summit, it's the first time a non-European country in Canada is going to be there. Prime Minister Carney arrived. And guess where it's taking place? In Yerevan, in Armenia. Armenia flexing its independence from Russia, saying, we ain't going to be a vassal country of Russia. Armenia wants to look more towards the European Union. And meanwhile, Donald Trump, America first, means America all alone. And you think about that settlement that Donald Trump tried to force on Armenia, between Armenia and Azerbaijan, you'll recall. And Donald Trump said, what a great deal, what a great deal. All Donald Trump thought he was doing that in service of Putin to kind of force this down Armenia's throat. But the lesson, I think, more widely shared by Armenia is this shows that we've got to look elsewhere, because being caught between America and Putin, who are basically one and the same, we've got to pay our attention and become more closely allied with Europe. And so that's what's taking place in Armenia right now. And I think it's an important development as well. Also, it should be noted, as Zelenskyy has been calling out, the United States delays. All you do is talk. If all we have is talks, Russia doesn't feel any pressure. Watch what Zelenskyy just said in an interview he gave with Newsmax. Who do you think he's trying to reach here by going on a state regime media in the United States for MAGA? He's making this message directly to Trump. Play this clip.
That if we will have just talks, Russia will not feel the most important thing what America can give us, pressure on them. The United States can push pressure with more sanctions, but they now lifted, yes, because of Middle East, and we feel this. And I'm afraid, of course, because Russia doesn't feel the pressure, and for them it's okay to continue this way of war. By the way, they are not in the strong position. They are not winning. We are in the best position during last 9-10 months. I mean, about battlefield. But in any way, it is better to stop the war.
Then we heard from Kaja Kallas. She's the European Commission's VP. She also serves basically as their top foreign minister for the European Commission, the European Union Commission. Here's what she has to say, and this is clearly also being directed at Donald Trump. We should not humiliate ourselves by saying, please, Putin, we beg you, please talk to us. Who do you think she's talking about here? Play this clip.
Russia does not want to engage in any kind of dialogue. We should not humiliate ourselves by being the demandeurs that please, we beg you to talk to us, but we should put them in a position where they actually go from pretending to negotiate to actually negotiate. And that's why we have planned to discuss with the foreign ministers of the European Union in Cyprus.
More from Zelenskyy saying, when people act like Trump and others are saying Ukraine should withdraw from certain territories of eastern Ukraine. Zelensky's like, no, that's our home. Our people live there. You withdraw from your house right now. You withdraw from where you live. How about that? I'll lecture you on you withdrawing. What a powerful message being sent to Donald Trump. Let's play it.
And what kind of precedent does that set for, all the
we never spoke about Ukrainian territories, just like about territories. All the territories, it's not only land, it's our history. It's history of one or another family. A lot of family, thousands of families and millions, and their roots are there. It's not about the question of territories. We are speaking about values, about people, about their children, about their houses. It's bigger than just territories. That's why when somebody says that you have to withdraw, please try to withdraw from your house. Thank you.
And obviously, not just Trump, but you've got Putin running scared. I mean, Putin's got that big May parade coming up, which they call their Victory Day parade. But take a look at what they're doing in Moscow right now. As Jay in Kyiv says, nothing says great Russian Empire and resounding victory like makeshift drone nets in front of the Kremlin, as Putin is terrified that drones from Ukraine are going to strike inside of Moscow.
If you're like me, instead of learning to skateboard, you wish you were learning to write code. Instead of scraping through college, you wish you bought Bitcoin at less than a cent, or secured a few Nvidia shares before they boomed. We might be the FOMO generation, but don't miss out on protecting your future. For around the same price per month as one of your streaming services, you can break our generational cycle and secure your and your family's future by finding life insurance at SelectQuote.com. If you're new to life insurance, you're not alone. Thankfully, I found SelectQuote. For over 40 years, SelectQuote has helped more than 2 million Americans understand their options and get the coverage they need. Over $700 billion in coverage and counting. As a broker, their mission is simple: to find you the right insurance policy at the best price. SelectQuote takes the guesswork out of finding the right life insurance policy. You don't have to sort through dozens of confusing options on your own. Instead, one of their licensed agents will find the right policy at the right price for you, comparing plans from trusted, top-rated insurance companies to find a policy that fits your health, your lifestyle, and your budget. And they work for you for free. You'll be covered faster than you think. SelectQuote works with providers who offer same-day coverage, up to $2 million worth, with no medical exam required. And you're not out of luck if you have pre-existing health conditions, because SelectQuote partners with companies that offer policies for people with conditions like high blood pressure, diabetes, or heart disease. SelectQuote makes life insurance simple. Even if this is your first time thinking about it, head to SelectQuote.com and a licensed insurance agent will call you right away with the right policy for your life and your budget. Life insurance is never cheaper than it is today. SelectQuote. They shop, you save. Life insurance is never cheaper than it is today. Get the right life insurance for you for less and save more than 50% at SelectQuote.com/Meidas. Save more than 50% on term life insurance at SelectQuote.com/Meidas today to get started. That's SelectQuote.com/Meidas.
You also had pandemonium in the Moscow airport right now. Take a look at what this Moscow airport looks like. We'll run some B-roll there as well. Other European countries stepping up. Sweden detaining yet another Russian Shadow Fleet vessel in the Baltic Sea. The ship was sailing under a fake flag known for transporting Russian oil. And we see Sweden, we see the UK, we see other EU nations, on the front lines as well, making sure that some of these ghost tankers, these shadow fleet vessels, are being captured. By the way, here's the headline from the Kyiv Independent. I talked about this at the outset of the video. U.S. to delay arms shipments to Europe, potentially affecting Ukraine, Financial Times reports. The worse things get for Putin, the more extreme the lengths to which Trump will go to save him, Jay in Kyiv writes. Not only announcing that they are pulling 5,000 troops from Germany, the Pentagon tells Europe not to expect weapons for Ukraine anytime soon. Washington has warned its European allies to prepare for delays in U.S. weapon arrivals, including missiles used by Ukraine to defend against Russia. Republican Congress member Don Bacon, veteran who's no longer going to be in the Congress after this term, he's where he just posted. Just as history for great reasons been kind to Churchill and not so much to Chamberlain, or not so to Chamberlain, history will be written on how we responded to the Russian invasion of Ukraine and our stewardship of NATO. Appeasement and moral blindness towards Russia will be ugly chapters. Speaking of which, it's all on videotape, folks. You had the Senate hearings that just took place where you had senators questioning Undersecretary of Defense, Secretary of Defense, and others, top military leaders. And watch this presentation of the utter betrayal of the Trump regime of Ukraine. Let's play it.
I think this is significant, Mr. Chairman, that we're basically abdicating a quarter of our responsibility in terms of this budget. Let me move on. One of the factors of this budget that hasn't gotten any publicity is there's zero funding for Ukraine. That's correct, isn't it, Mr. Hurst?
That's correct. There's no USAI funding in this budget.
And there was 400 million that was appropriated last year by a bipartisan, bicameral act of Congress. What's become of that money? My understanding is not a dollar of it has been dispersed.
It was released very recently, and again, we got these funds, I believe, in March, and it takes time for funds to flow through the department, but it's going to get put to work very shortly. We're going to work with the UCOM commander to make sure we use these funds in the most appropriate way possible.
I didn't want Senator Sullivan to be the only one with an exhibit. This indicates what's happened to our support for Ukraine over a period of years. The orange bars are U.S. support. The blue bars are Europe. As you see, Europe is 99% in the year 2026. Same thing with humanitarian and other aid to Ukraine. And yet this is, I believe, an existential struggle for the future of democracy, where we had an aggressive country invade a neighboring country without any justification whatsoever. And by the way, that invading country is the major winner so far of the war in Iran. They've gotten, the estimates are $40 to $80 billion of additional revenues from oil and the relief of sanctions as a result of the war in Iran. Secretary Hegseth, why are we abandoning Ukraine?
Senator, if you would hold that chart back up,
Yep.
I think that's a beautiful chart. I think that's exactly what we want. We want Europe stepping up and funding and shouldering the burden. They are rich countries worth 20 trillion versus an economy of 2 trillion. Europe can step up. Europe can fund it, and they have through our Pearl Initiative and through our European Command. That's exactly what the American people want to see.
And then you have Senator Blumenthal just giving receipts. Let's play this clip.
And I've visited Ukraine. Often I've gone to the drone manufacturing facilities, which have grown in sophistication and number. They're producing, I think, 1,000 drones a day now. And what has so impressed me is they work on the evolution of their drones on the assembly line. They'll get real-time information from the battlefield, and they'll make adjustments literally as they are manufacturing. And I don't know anything in our industrial base that is as nimble and agile and quick. I hope this panel agrees that we need to move more in that direction.
And here he talks about the false narratives that Ukraine is somehow not winning this war, when in fact Ukraine is winning this war. Play this clip.
In my view, Ukraine has not only not been militarily defeated, but the point that I was trying to make in the last exchange with the secretary, there's a false narrative based on my last visit to Ukraine, which was my 9th, my conversation not only with President Zelenskyy, but with our own military on the ground, as well as our intelligence community. In fact, Ukraine arguably is winning. There is this false narrative, Russia's winning. Putin wants that false narrative to be our official narrative. I'm not putting words in your mouth, and you don't have to respond. I understand your reasons for not responding, but the American people should know that the President of the United States is undermining our security because Ukraine is holding the line against Vladimir Putin, who will keep going against Moldova, which I also visited on my last trip, against our NATO allies. And we still have an obligation under Article 5 to come to their defense, just as they did after 9/11, as King Charles so eloquently reminded us. And my view is, and this observation is hardly novel, that China is watching what we're doing in Ukraine.
And finally, Hegseth was cross-examined when he was testifying about just how he got it so wrong, right? I think it was Democratic Congressmember Smith who said, you told us last year that Ukraine had no cards to play at all and that Ukraine better cut any deal with Russia because Russia was going to overwhelm it. Then you completely defunded giving military equipment to Ukraine. Yet, over the past year, Ukraine's counteroffensive has pushed Russia back. Ukraine has not only held its own, but now is one of the major military powers in the world. And in terms of technological advancement, Ukraine leads the world, probably any country right now, in its nimbleness, as you just heard from Senator Blumenthal, in its ability to quickly adapt to the battlefield. Play the clip.
So on Ukraine, a year plus ago, your advice, the president's advice, was Ukraine had no cards to play. They should go cut the best possible deal they could. Clearly, that was wrong. What did you miss? What did you miss about the conflict between Russia and Ukraine that you didn't see that Ukraine was going to be capable of doing what they've done in the last 14 months?
What we didn't miss, and we're here in this committee, is that Joe Biden, with no accountability, gave hundreds of billions of dollars of our weapons to Ukraine, to an outcome that never would have happened if President Trump was president. So he pulled out you guys don't talk about that. Ultimately, President Trump believes there should be a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. But
you didn't expect Ukraine to be where they're at right now. I'm asking you, just from a strategic standpoint,
I think the Ukrainians have shown great courage, and I appreciate that Europe is now paying for any weapons that we provide.
All right, I yield back. Thank you.
There you have it, folks. Let me know what you think. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. Let's do it together. We're getting close to 7 million. Seriously, if you see if you're subscribed, double check. If not, make sure you subscribe. We appreciate you as always.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to add the MeidasTouch podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts for new updates every single day.